hushed whisper in my ear, put a disclaimer on all that you do, all that you create, all that you aspire to be, because it'll never be enough. Why? Why would it be enough? If you push against it, that whisper booms, contorts, squeezes, and twists. You are going to fail. Don't even try. Because if it can't be perfect, well, it should be nothing at all. You see, perfectionism and I are old friends, and we do this dance where I forget that I'm supposed to be the lead, and perfectionism and I, we both get scared of dancing, and we start to freak out, and when we freak out, we're like gasoline on each other's flames, threatening to burn us all to the ground. An 89.99%, that is never going to round up to that A. Papers being haphazardly shoved into a backpack. Change not coming in a multiple of 5, or, well, really honestly, change in general. That one strand of hair that just won't stay flat, or, speaking of flat, that one note that you just can't hit right. Whatever the case may be, if you are a normal human being, all of these things sound like a bit of a bummer. But if you are someone who suffers from perfectionism or many of the compulsive mental disorders such as OCD that so often accompany it, then these sound like waking nightmares. Using Radiohead's Fitter Happier, Little Victories from Sarah Kelly, My Battle and Triumph Over OCD, Anxiety, and Depression from National Alliance on Mental Illness, This is the Life of an Anxious Perfectionist from Annalie Beyer, and a poem about perfectionism from Janelle Testa. We'll explore the dangers and downsides to a truly unattainable status. Perfection, a program. 11 years old, 5th grade. That's when it all started. I would wake up at 5:50 on the nose, not a minute before and not a minute later. I'd dash into the kitchen and begin making a pot of coffee for my mother. When it was finished, I'd pour it into a cup and place it to the right of her spot at the kitchen table with the handle perfectly aligned to the right. By 6:05, I had to be finished in the kitchen and on my way to my next morning task. I'd get dressed, brush my teeth, make my bed, and run to the living room to start my next morning ritual. At exactly 6:30, I would turn on the television and watch QVC, the Home Shopping Network. At 7:20, I would grab my backpack, head to the car, and mentally prepare myself for a day of school. Perfection was the only acceptable state, and so I lived with a constant critical internal dialogue. I was never satisfied. Everything, a test, a social event, even doing the laundry would rev me up. I demanded perfection from myself while simultaneously expecting failure, berating myself for what were sure to be subpar wash and fold skills. I can't do anything right. Fitter, happier, more productive, comfortable, not drinking too much, regular exercise at the gym, 3 days a week, getting on better with your associate employees, and at ease. The biggest struggle that I faced was the whiteboard. That stupid whiteboard. My teacher would go and write something on the board, and when she went to erase it, there would almost always be one little smear left in the corner, and when it happened, I became completely fixated. It created this feeling in me that I can't even put into words. I felt as though the world were somehow no longer right, that my life was out of balance, anger and anxiety built up inside of me. On the outside, I was sitting up straight, hands crossed. The perfect picture of the ideal student. But on the inside, I was having an absolute meltdown. I had no choice but to solve the problem myself. I would look up at the clock and figure when the best time would be to make my move. If lunch, recess, or another activity were coming up anytime soon, I would say that I needed to use the restroom. As I walked by the teacher's desk, I slyly run my hand across the spot on the board, erasing the mark. The relief. All was well. Until it would never just happen again. At a better pace, slower and more calculated. Now self-employed, concerned, but pragmatism, not idealism. There were constantly numbers going through my head, and they always had to end on an even number. And if they didn't end on that even number, I would often have to redo things until it felt right. This would make my days feel full of stress and anxiety, and it made me dread every day because I didn't want to have to deal with this any longer. Over the years, I have become very good at hiding my problem. I'm bubbly, talkative, and even outgoing to the people that I meet. Although I often feel as if I'm just putting on an act. Very few people in my life know the suffering OCD causes me and how consuming that it really is. Many people have thought that I've shut them out, but in reality, I'm just trapped inside my own world. Within the past year or so, I have started regularly seeing a psychologist and taking a medication. For a few years now, I've been going to the gym as well. And when I'm there, my mind just drifts and focuses on nothing except bettering myself. And, well, to be honest with you, fitness has been the most helpful remedy of them all. Will not cry in public. Less chance of illness. A good memory, and still cries at a good film, but no longer empty or frank. Your mental health is equally as important as your physical well-being. I waited way too long to pursue the help that I needed. And yet, I don't even know where I'd be today if I hadn't sought that. Now, granted, I'm nowhere near where I one day want to be, but I am slowly but surely getting there and testing myself every day. For example, this morning, I left a dirty plate on the kitchen counter before I left for work. It's slightly getting to me, but nevertheless, I did it, didn't I? Woo to the little victories. I am open to talk to anyone who's also suffering from this because, well, I need support, but I also want to give it. Thank you.
Lane did a great job